Good day. This transmission has been called What Happens When You Sleep? Sweet Dreams. The idea is that there are many different levels of things going on while your body is at rest, and we will start at the level of the physical. So, of course, when you are tired, when you go to sleep, on the physical level, you are relaxing the body, de-stressing the body, allowing your mental facility and observations to sort of shut down in the outer direction, turn them inward, so they can allow you to process information from your experiences of the day, to allow you to reorganize your perspective on things, and of course, physiologically, to allow your body to repair, to heal itself in the deep delta sleeps. The idea of the cycles of 3 cycles per second to 7 cycles per second allows your body, allows your chemistry, allows your cellular nature to, again, regenerate, revitalize by tapping into deep reservoirs, deep reserves of energy, allowing the energy to build back up to a certain level. The idea, again, is this can be very healing, can allow things to come back into alignment on a cellular, atomic, and subatomic level by relaxing all of the output that you experience on your daily waking regimen. So physiologically, as you all know, it is very healthy, very aligning to relax, to rest, to de-stress, to give the body a chance to go back to its natural state as much as possible, and then to feel revitalized when you wake up in the morning. Now, on the astral level and on the mental level, you have the opportunity, as I said, to sort of re-look at everything that happened in the day, reorganize your thoughts, allow yourself to learn lessons, allow yourself to extract information from your experiences of the day, and on a broader level, from the mental reaching into the astral, allowing you to start recognizing connections to other things, how everything is interrelated in the experiences you've been having, to give you some insights into how you may be able to move forward in physical life, having more awareness and more understanding of associations and relationships between different events. This happens on that high mental, lower astral level as you are resting, as you are recuperating, as you are energizing. But then on the higher astral, there are many different things that are going on while you are asleep. Again, not only the noticing of different things that may have happened in your physical life, but also being able to go to what we call the template level reality, where you can examine the basic blueprints of your agreements in life, make certain adjustments as may befit the idea of the themes that you chose to explore, examine and consider new avenues, new pathways that might be more representative of who you truly are and your path of least resistance. The idea, of course, is that as you allow on the physical level more and more de-stressing and relaxation and more aligning of your belief systems, then the things that are going on that you're learning on the astral plane can more readily be incorporated into your physical consciousness, your physical personality when you wake up. This often is what happens when you do, in fact, allow yourself to wake up feeling very refreshed, very eager to get on with your day, very excited, feeling more calm, more certain, more confident. This is when you have a real alignment between what you're doing on the astral plane and what you allow yourself to absorb on the physical plane by having aligned your belief systems and let go of those beliefs that are negative or fear-based and don't serve you, that are no longer relevant for you. You feel a new surge of energy because now the pathway between the astral level and the physical level is clearer and allows more energy to flow in a more hyperconductive and superconductive way. And this again results in more energization when you wake up in the morning. But not only are you allowing yourself to look at your agreements and your alignments and your associations on the astral plane and make whatever adjustments are necessary there for you to move forward in your physical reality experience, there are other things going on at the same time when you go a little bit higher into the astral level. Many of you will be attending different kinds of classes, spirit classes, where you are learning many different kinds of things about your relationship in the creation of your physical reality experience, many different kinds of ideas of who you are as a greater being. Many different ways are shown to you and taught to you. Choices are given to you to make on that level. You are learning about yourself as a spirit in relation to physical reality. You are learning to make certain kinds of adjustments beyond the physical in your energy, in your consciousness, that may be, again, more beneficial for you when you allow yourself to wake up into your physical dream, so to speak. But again, the idea is that the more you can clear yourself of negative or fear-based beliefs, the more you will realize that this is going on the astral level, that you may be attending, for lack of a better term, seminars and classes that teach you things that could be more applicable in your physical lives, that would allow you to experience your physical reality in a much more joyful, much more creative and imaginative way. But you have to really clear that path on the physical level to allow the physical personality to be capable of absorbing what you're learning more clearly on the astral levels. Now, going a little bit higher, there are things on the higher astral or spirit levels that you may also be engaging in. You may be interacting with spirit guides and friends and your soul family on that level, exchanging information and ideas, exchanging experiences for each other in various ways that may be helpful to each being's personal experience, either in physical, astral, or spirit reality. Making decisions for what it is you are attempting to accomplish as a greater being, what it is you are learning on the soul level that can aid and assist you in moving forward in the future, not only in physical reality, but in spirit as well. You may also be interacting and practicing for other things you may do when you leave the physical reality, like perhaps being a spirit guide yourself, being trained in that way. You may be attempting to assist individuals who may be having a challenge in their death, who may be remaining in the lower astral realms, not disconnecting from physical reality in the way that would best serve them. So you may be practicing to help them to be a spirit guide and help them cross over in easier ways, in more joyful ways, to recognize they may have in fact passed on, which sometimes many spirits don't, based on their belief systems, to aid and assist them in becoming more of who they are from the spirit side, as well as those who may be inclined from the physical side to help those ghosts cross over as well. This used to be known as the idea of a spirit guide from the physical level, a spirit psychologist, so to speak, but has sort of devolved into this idea and misinterpretation of exorcism. So the idea really is that it used to be that spiritual psychologists from the physical side and spiritual psychologists from the spirit side could aid and assist in the crossing over of many beings to help them adjust to the idea and remember who they truly are in spirit and move forward in that way. Now, aside from the physical and the astral levels and the spirit levels, in terms of the things you may be learning and the things you may be practicing for what you may call the future of your involvement on the spirit level as a spirit yourself, you also then are presented with many different pathways and many different choices for what might come next. Maybe not even remaining in the idea of the earth plane or the earth focus, so to speak. You may be more aware on that level now of connections that you have made to other dimensions, other extraterrestrial societies. And on the extraterrestrial question, in the process of sleeping and going to the higher spirit levels, you may now be more aware of the agreements you have made with regard to the evolution of the Earth, the hybridization agenda, the creation of the hybrid races, the coming of the hybrid children to live among you physically on Earth eventually, and the blending together that will allow Earth to evolve forward into what we have termed the sixth hybrid race. But you also, on that level, may be very, very aware of the connections you have made to different extraterrestrial civilizations. You may now start to really allow yourself to play out and experience alternate realities, counterpart selves in those civilizations of Sirius or Pleiades or Arcturus energy or what have you, and allow yourself to really start to incorporate some of that information, experience, and energy more fully into what it is you are experiencing when you wake up in your physical reality on Earth, giving you the opportunity to broaden your perspective that Earth is really truly part of a galactic family. And therefore, again, by clearing out certain belief systems and fear-based ones in your physical personality, can more fully absorb what you're learning on the higher spiritual planes with respect to your connections to extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional civilizations and their experiences. And you can even on that level start to experience how they experience the idea of sleeping and what happens for them when they dream, what happens for them when they travel astrally. Because again, even though all spirit in a sense is the same kind of spirit, every different spirit has its own experiences in the reality that they have allowed themselves to dream they are in. And therefore you can really start seeing the interconnections, the inner workings, the relationships between all the different civilizations that form a kind of galactic family, a galactic soul family, and may even on that level start to really experience the connections of higher levels of the soul, the oversoul, and the connections and extensions it may have with regard to the idea of the different civilizations as well as parallel reality counterparts that you may be connecting to. All of these things can be going on when you sleep. You are very active because remember, spirit doesn't really sleep. Only the physical form does. And again, this is mostly to regenerate, to recharge your batteries. And the reason for this, again, is because physical reality is something that isn't real. It's something that you have to continue to project. And because it's not really real in the sense of being solid and an actual place, you have to maintain it, so to speak, because it's not your natural state. You require reconnection to your natural state to bring through the energy and maintain the illusion that physical reality is real. And the way that you fundamentally know that physical reality is not real is that it deteriorates, because what is real never deteriorates. And therefore physical reality, by expressing deterioration, decay, coming apart, segregation in that sense, separation in that sense, that's your first clue that physical reality is nothing more than a projected illusion of consciousness, and that you have to maintain it, even physiologically. You have to upkeep things and so on and so forth. And all of those things that have to do with maintenance and upkeep tell you that physical reality is a temporary manifestation, a projection of your consciousness, and isn't really as real as your true natural self, which requires no maintenance at all. In spirit, you don't sleep. In spirit, you don't eat. And all of these things are simply representative of the fact that this is your natural state, your natural eternal state, your infinite state. And from that state, you can explore many things as we have just outlined, and many other things that we may discuss at a future date. But you are, when you are sleeping, very busy on other levels in a number of different ways. And we are happy to present all of these different ideas for your consideration. And we will also add another exercise at another time that will allow you more opportunity to more consciously be aware of what you're doing on the astral and spirit levels with regard to Earth and extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional connections. But until then, allow yourself to simply, when you drift off to sleep, realize how involved, how connected, and how busy you are when you are not active in physical terms, when you're not really living the physical dream per se. There are many things going on, many exciting things you are learning, many amazing things you are doing, and we will leave you with that for the moment, until such time as we give you the meditation exercise that will help anchor this in at the end of this transmission. But for now, In return for the gift you are giving us of interacting with all of you, I ask now, how may we be of service to you? You may begin with your dialogue, your questions, if you wish.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Lucy, and I'm French Canadian. And over 30 years ago, Ireland infiltrated my life in many, many aspects. And to this day, I still feel pulled by this country, the land and its history, the energy there. And I would like to understand. So then I started to think about past life regression hypnosis. But then it doesn't make much sense because of your teaching about everything is existing here and now, everything is happening here and now, and that we connect energetically to past lives and future lives also. So I'm baffled. I don't know how to make sense of that connection with Ireland. Can you help me, direct me? I would appreciate your help. Thanks.
Explore whatever technique you wish, because it doesn't matter that you understand the mechanics of it and how it actually works. If you're still attracted to using the idea of a post-hypnotic technique for the idea of connecting to a so-called past self, it's all right to do that, and you can simply reconcile both ideas in the idea that it's a permission slip that works for you, that allows you to connect. Whether that person actually exists in the past or simultaneously really makes no difference in terms of the effectiveness of the technique that you may choose to use. So you can understand the mechanics while simply using a technique that may be using the idea of outdated terminology. As long as you feel attracted to use it, it can still work for you.
Hello, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
How are you?
Perfect, and you?
I'm very good, thank you. Happy to talk to you.
And happy to talk to you as well.
So, Bashar, I wanted to talk a little bit more about dreams.
Yes.
I have a few questions. Let's say in the morning, I wake up and I remember that I traveled to Esasani and that I met you and talked to you.
Yes.
So, my spirit can be doing that right now that I'm awake. I just realize
Yes.
when I'm sleeping that I am doing it.
Yes.
Okay, so the part of us that dreams, if I ask who is the dreamer, is the complete part of my being, the higher mind, my spirit, the part that is on physical reality.
It depends on the reason you're doing what you're doing. It can involve different levels. It can involve all of them. It just depends on what you need to access in order to do whatever it is you're doing.
Okay, so a lucid dream, when I wake up in the dream, it just means a realization that I am both a physical and a non-physical being.
And you're coming more from the idea of the higher mind.
Okay. And I was thinking about the different stages during the dream night. If a person sleeps maybe 8 hours, and usually the first hours for me are like, I don't really remember anything, and maybe the second to fourth hour dreams are a little spooky, a bit weird, intense.
All right.
And then in the morning, they just seem to be more clear, more soft, more lucid.
Yes, well, you do go through cycles, as your scientists already know, when you do dream. And the cycles can be representative of different aspects of your personality, different things being done, different things being looked at and considered, different things being processed in different ways, depending upon the belief systems that the personality is holding on to. So, yes, of course, you'll go through cycles and have different ways of experiencing the consciousness that you are relative to the things you need to understand about yourself as an earth personality. So that's not unusual.
Okay. And when you talk about going to the temperate level reality, we could sort of go there during the night at any point, every night?
Well, at points that are relevant for you, yes.
Okay. But we do go every night.
No.
Oh.
No, again, all these things may be going on because everything exists at once, but you, from a linear perspective, will not necessarily experience doing the same thing every single night. Again, it depends on what it is you need to do that night. You may spend the entire night in a class.
Oh, okay.
That just depends. Now, when I say the entire night, I mean relatively speaking, because time on the spirit level is not what it is in physical reality. So it may seem like a blip relative to your physical sense of time, but it will unspool in your memory when you wake up as the dream that seems to take all night. So remember that when you wake up and you remember a dream, what you are doing is allowing your physical mind to construct its interpretation of the experience that you had using the props and symbols that it is familiar with, at least to the best that it can. So the idea is that what may seem to be a dream that lasted all night may actually only have been constructed in the last few seconds before you woke up. But it will seem to represent something that seemed to happen relative to physical time and spirit time to have happened or taken all night, because you're used to classes taking a long time in your reality, even though it may not have taken that much time in terms of spirit time.
Okay.
Is this making sense to you? Do you understand what we're saying?
Yes, it does.
All right.
And so can we be intentional in terms of before going to sleep, I could somehow direct myself, or that I'll just leave to my spirit side?
You can do either, and yes, you can become more intentional about it, and there are a number of different permission slips that can perhaps allow you to do so. As long as you do them without absolute insistence, just by using whatever permission slips you're attracted to use and allowing it to do whatever it does as being the thing that it necessarily needs to do at that moment, then yes, you can be intentional.
And so, Bashar, when we dream with our, and remember dreaming about our parents, family members, whether they're alive at the moment or not, is it usually we're actually interacting with them, or it could be a symbol and it's somebody else?
It can be either. And we can't really give it a percentage because it will depend upon each and every individual in terms of what percentage they may require for that kind of interaction as opposed to something that they're simply processing.
Okay, I see. And in terms of the dreams that are what we could say, not nightmares, but when we are interacting and we perceive something that is negative, sometimes I'll give you an example.
Yes.
My partner wakes me up sometimes in the middle of the night because I start talking and seem a little afraid. And I usually remember that I'm sort of fighting with a being or sort of.
All right. Well, again, it can be for several reasons. Number one, you may be processing certain kinds of ideas that are representative of fear-based beliefs that you're holding on to in your unconscious mind, and bringing them out in the dream state, in a sense, is safer than living through them in physical reality, yes?
Okay.
So sometimes nightmares are simply you processing things that you don't necessarily then have to experience in physical terms.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like we believe that we are interacting negative beings or etc. It doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way. It might be you exploring something that might be considered negative, but again, remember that you're just exploring in an astral state and nothing can really happen to you in that sense that you don't allow to happen. But again, the physical mind will interpret even an interaction in what you might call a negative energy or a negative reality or a negative being in a way that makes sense to it when you wake up, and therefore can kick you into the idea of survival mode. But that's the physical interpretation of something that wasn't necessarily experienced that way on the astral level.
Okay. Just last night, and this has happened to me before, I have dreams that I'm sort of falling from a balcony or falling from a place, and there's a, I don't know, in a building, and I might fall, and I feel like I'm falling. So is that?
Well, that just could be an interpretation of you going back into your body.
Oh, okay.
Because to you, the interpretation feels like going from a higher level quickly to a lower level, which can be interpreted again by your physical personality as if you're falling, using the symbols it understands, like gravity and falling off a building and so on and so forth. It can be other things, but I'm saying it could also just be that.
And the opposite of flying, that many of us fly sometimes and remember flying.
Yes, because again, the spirit is unlimited by physical terms like gravity. Therefore, your physical mind will interpret that as flying.
Okay. And
Does
Bashar,
that help?
just one last question about dreams. Have I interacted with you on dreams?
You have interacted with my society's energy, and you have interacted with counterparts you may have in my society. I have, from time to time, been aware of such interactions, but the idea is, for now, we usually allow such interactions directly with us to happen in this format rather than in the dream format for a variety of reasons I will go into at another time.
Okay, okay. Can I ask a question, a different subject?
Well, that was a question on a different subject.
Just curious about horses.
Yes.
I have dreamed a lot about horses,
All right.
and I found them fascinating. I usually have lucid dreams with horses, at
All
least
right.
3 times that I can remember. What kind of symbol is a horse for us?
Well, it depends on the culture that's looking at the animal. But in general, the horse represents the new way. Look at it this way. Indigenous Americans knew of the dog, but they didn't, up to a certain point, know about the horse. When they were introduced to the horse, they called it the greater dog. The dog is representative of service, the horse representative of service in a new way to carry you farther, carry you faster toward yourself, toward your truth. So we'll just leave you with that particular interpretation for now.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bashar. Good day.
Good day.
Bye.
Hey Bashar, it's your boy Rohan, aka RX Mundi from Bucks County, PA. And my question today has to do with law of attraction and manifestation in general. I know there's a really powerful technique where you can embody the energy of your future self now, or to live in the wish fulfilled, as it's often called. But lately I've been having a real challenge with this. I'm just wondering if you could help me out with what are some limiting beliefs that might prevent me from doing this. And yeah, that's about it. And thank you so much, Bashar. Shavai.
Again, it's all back to the formula, because again, it contains all the tools that will allow you to investigate yourself, to discover limiting beliefs that don't serve you and let them go. Again, you must have honest self-examination while you're acting on your passion to the best you can. Don't assume, don't insist, stay in a positive state no matter what manifests, because it needs to be there for some reason that could serve you. If you stay in a positive state, you will get the benefit from it. Constantly examine your belief systems, letting go of the ones that are fear-based or negative that don't serve you. Negative beliefs can be of service depending on how you use them in positive ways. For example, you are obviously using a negative mechanism to limit your consciousness to be able to have a physical reality experience, because you are naturally much bigger than the idea of your physical reality personality. But the idea is that it comes with all the tools necessary to allow you to continue not only to act on your passion, but to continue to examine yourself, to explore yourself, and to hone your skills at having better discernment about what is and isn't relevant for the themes that you chose to explore. Let synchronicity guide you. Remember, there is the synchronicity we call the green light synchronicity that will say, here's an opportunity you are able to act on that will manifest what you need. And here's the synchronicity that says, stop, no, don't go down that path. Don't beat your head against the wall. This is not your path right now. It may become your path later. It may not. But synchronicity using the go and the stop red light mechanism will create a corridor for you to travel down that is representative of the path you chose to be in this life. So rely on the efficacy of the automatic things built into the formula to guide you by simply continuing to act on the formula to the best you can. Good day.
Hello, Bashar.
Good day.
Good day. It's good to meet you. I hold deep appreciation for you and for your channel, Daryl.
All right, thank you. We deeply appreciate all of you as well, and it is our passion and our pleasure to interact with you this day. What would you like to discuss?
I would like to discuss one topic. I have this feeling of constant nostalgia, and let me explain.
Yes.
When I get into relationships, for me, relationships are forever. for that reason, I relate very much to what you say about your civilization, that you're all married to one another in a way. And I see that humans, they move on from relationships, or at least I perceive it to be that way. Whereas I remain constantly and always, forever, they always remain in my heart. And I
Yes.
don't know if that frequency is in some way matched by them.
Well, in some ways it depends, but the idea is it doesn't mean you have to physically be together for the relationship to continue to exist.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship is a thing of reflection, a thing of energy. It doesn't necessarily always have to be represented by the physical presence of an individual to know that you will always contain the information and energy and experience of that relationship, and therefore the relationship lives on in some way, shape, or form. So, yes, all relationships are, in a sense, forever, but that doesn't imply that they have to physically be.
Understood. Understood. Okay. Um, I also feel that to some extent I can feel people's souls,
Yes.
and I would like to know if when I feel their souls, do they feel mine feeling theirs to some extent?
Depends on the person, doesn't it? Depends on what they're believing that they're capable of doing, how sensitive they are to different frequencies and vibrations of different levels of consciousness. Some of them may, some of them may not. Now, they will always, on some level, be aware of it, whether they're consciously aware of it or not, but they may not be consciously aware that they're doing so. So the answer is yes and no, depending upon what level you're looking at.
Understood. Okay. On another topic, I'm starting to believe that I create my own reality, and that I really have power to become anything I want, anything I wish for, and
Anything that is relevant for your theme, not anything, because things are not necessarily all relevant for this life you're experiencing.
exactly. Okay. Yeah. Um, However, the people around me growing up, they have told me that I shouldn't believe in these fairy tales, that I shouldn't trust myself. So I struggle with self trust. I believe, or more like
All right.
confidence.
Well, it may be simply a version of a reflection of what I just said to you. You may be making too general of a statement, and they may be simply reflecting back to you in their own way that what you actually mean to say is, yes, you can achieve what's relevant for you, but not necessarily anything beyond that. And therefore, that just simply may be your way of getting a reflection to focus on the idea of making sure that you're not just wishing yourself beyond the relevance of this particular physical experience, because that would make no sense. So you can look at it that way, as a reflection to remind you it's about what's relevant, not just anything you wish for. Because you could wish for things that have nothing at all to do with the theme that you're exploring of this life.
Yeah.
So you can look at it that way.
Yeah. Okay. And how can I tell when I'm not, say, deluding myself? That is, believing in things that are not truly my.
All right. Well, it's a matter of discernment. It's a matter of honest self-reflection about what your reason is for saying that you prefer something to happen. So if you're really honest in your self-examination of your beliefs, if you understand the reasons at your core of why you are asking for this, then it's easier to tell the difference. So can you give us a specific example?
I think one of my purposes in this life is to love and to become a master of relationships, so to speak.
All right. Well, that's an expression of your purpose. Your purpose is to be yourself. It's the same as everyone's purpose. But that can be an expression of your purpose. But all you have to do is follow the formula to know whether or not it is. Act on your passion to the best you can. No assumption, no insistence on what the outcome ought to be. Remain in a positive state no matter what happens, and continue to explore and examine your belief systems and let go of the ones that are fear-based or negative, that simply are out of alignment with who you truly prefer to be. So if it is true that you need to become a master of relationships, that will automatically happen through the synchronicity that's built into the idea of following the formula, because it will bring you the opportunities to act on that will get you there. If it doesn't bring you those opportunities, that's your first clue that it's either not your expression of purpose right now, or it's not your expression of purpose. But it will always bring you the opportunity to act on that is the expression of your purpose, by making sure that the opportunity contains the ability to be acted on, and that it has more excitement or more passion, even just a little bit more than any other option you could be acting on. That's how you tell the difference of what your path is and what it is not. Is this helping?
It is. Thank you. If I may, I wanted to ask you something about one of the fundamental laws, and
Yes.
it's the one, everything changes but the laws.
Yes.
About the everything changes. So I struggle with this one, and I will tell you how.
Yes.
I understand that everything changes, but in a way, and this is related to one of the first questions that I asked you, I would like to feel, or I would like it to be true, that I'm in a constant, permanent, eternal relationship and a connection with all the human beings and all the things.
Well,
and,
you are.
Okay.
How can you not be? You can create an experience of not being, but the only way you can create an experience of not being connected is by actually using your connections to create that experience. You see, this is the paradox principle. The idea is expressed more often than not by these following illustrations. There is no such thing as a lack of confidence. You can create an experience of lacking confidence, but when you create an experience of lacking confidence, you're confident that you lack confidence. So you actually are confident about something, even though you're using your confidence to create an experience that you lack confidence. There's no such thing as being out of control, because when you create an experience of being out of control, you're controlling that. Therefore, there's no such thing as being out of control. There's no such thing as a lack of trust, because you're always trusting something to be true. Even though you may be trusting that you lack trust, you're still using your trust to create that experience. You cannot be disconnected from all that is, because all that is one thing. Even though it may express itself as an infinite multitude of reflections that appear to be different things, they're all still reflections of the same one thing. So you can't really be disconnected from all that is, but you can create varying experiences of disconnection in order to play the games that you've agreed to play. For example, you have agreed on some level to limit your ability to express yourself as the full being that you are in order to have a physical experience. But you're doing that for a positive reason of discovering yourself through a new avenue, of discovering yourself from a new point of view. And that's how creation expands. Because the core structure, the laws, never change, but your relationship to those laws, your relationship to the structure, your perspective of the structure is constantly changing, and that's what expands existence in terms of the experience of existence of itself, but it never expands the structure or nature of existence. Does that help?
It does, Bashar. Thanks very much. These are all the questions that I had, and I
All
truly
right.
appreciate love you.
All right, our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Good day. Thank you.
Hey Bashar, my name is Jillian. I'm from Philadelphia. My question is about dreams, and specifically old dreams, something that's maybe 6 or 10 years old. The essence, the feeling, and the memory of the dream, but mostly the essence of it, will pop into my head randomly. And these are dreams that are 10 plus years old. And I don't know what it means. It's a specific image from the dream, objects from the dream, and the feeling of the dream. What does this mean?
It means that different experiences that you are having while you are asleep are representative of different vibrational frequency levels of your consciousness, and some of them will leak through when a particular frequency is appropriate to represent you allowing that frequency through, coming from that frequency to recognize that frequency may be more representative of you being more of your collective self, and to act from your passion at that moment in that frequency. It's training you to understand the different levels, different frequencies of your consciousness, so you can use them more effectively in your physical waking state. All right, good day, good day.
Good day, Bashar. My name is Renee, and I'm honored to be here.
It is our passion and our pleasure to interact with you as well.
So I have a couple of questions for you. Um, I'm the one who created the spiral artwork
Yes, yes.
that I intended for it to be connected to your spiral sculpture on your home planet.
All right.
And I was just wondering if you could tell me if you could feel anything from the artwork or
It is
what the
quite
connection
beautiful.
is.
Quite beautiful, and a mix of different energies. It is representative as a spiral of connecting to different frequencies, different levels of consciousness from our perspective, different dimensions of experience. It is a two-dimensional version, of course, of the spiral we have created on our planet, which is actually a tower spiral, goes up to a point. But the idea, nevertheless, is that it does, in fact, from our perspective, capture many different resonant frequencies of different realities and levels of consciousness, blending them all together in the act of a movement, a motion, an action that can be taken, and therefore is a wonderful permission slip that can be absorbed as a reflection, as a mirror for those that gaze upon it, to allow them to be inspired to take action as well by connecting to more levels of their own consciousness and their own being. That is our interpretation of the art.
Thank you so much. Another question I have is I was drawing I always start with a spiral when I put the pen to the paper. And I was drawing these little things and they looked like little lanterns to me for the longest time. And I kept drawing it and drawing it and drawing it. And I was getting a little frustrated. And finally, these little beings came through. They look like little people, kind of.
Yes.
And can you tell me if they're connected to any hybrid children I might have or what they are?
They can be representative and symbolic of that, but they're more likely connected to the elemental realm. Do you understand that term?
I do.
All right. So, because the hybrid children are also connected to the elemental realm through their consciousness very strongly, they can be represented in the mix, but for the most part, what you're experiencing are the lights that come through and the bridges that are created between the physical and the elemental realm so that beings can express themselves in the joy of the creation of your art.
I see. Can you tell me if I have any hybrid children and how many?
You do. I'm not going to tell you how many because that's a relative term, because your DNA may exist in thousands of hybrids.
I understand. My last question is about one night several years ago, I looked up into the night sky and it was very dark. And high up in the sky, there was this opening. It looked like a door and
Yes.
it looked like a rainbow. It was very bright and it was for about 1.5 seconds. It opened, I saw it, and then it just closed. Can you tell me what that was?
A portal. It's simply that you've expanded your consciousness to the point where now and then you are capable of seeing the energetic portals that constantly fluctuate and exist between your reality and other realities. These portals exist all over your planet and in the sky, and from time to time they will open, and it's a rare thing still, but will become more common in the future, that your people will be able to extend their senses to the point where you will see these portals opening and closing all the time.
It was amazing. And I believe that was my last question, but would you please give my regards to Saibo and Willa?
Done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
Good day. Shavai.
Aveo.
Hi, Bashar. My name is Renee. I'm from Adelaide, Australia. My question is, can you follow the formula for something like healing, like emotional healing, like trauma or grief? You know, so deciding your next step by following your excitement within that context. I found that that's been working for me, but I'm wondering if this is part of the structure of reality or it's just been working out for me. Thank you.
The formula is part of the structure of reality in the sense that that's how you create your physical reality experience. It's literally the recipe for the mechanism that you use consciously, the mechanism of consciousness, that you use to create your physical reality experience. So in that context, yes, you've already discovered that it will work in that way. Therefore, keep using it. But don't forget that it contains the tool of the reflective mirror that puts you in touch with your belief system so that you can redefine things as you prefer to redefine them, knowing that your past is created from the present. So every time you have a new understanding, a change of understanding, a new level of understanding of yourself, you're also changing your past. And therefore, what it is you believe you are connected to or drawing upon in every given moment, redefining yourself.
Aloha Bashar. My name is Luca, and I'm currently an international student on Maui, Hawaii.
All right.
It's a great honor and excitement to speak with you again. I have a question and a short story to share, if I may.
Yes, yes.
I would love to know when it comes to the idea of first contact, and when you look at our educational system we have on Earth, are there any majors of study or areas of research you would suggest going into that would potentially help us prepare and become more involved when it comes to the idea of first contact? Parentheses, other than military stuff, obviously.
Well, not so obvious necessarily. Never invalidate anything. There are always many different pathways for different people to take. But the idea is not so much the subjects, because you have to simply gravitate to whatever subjects you are attracted to gravitate to, whatever you're passionate about. That's your path of least resistance for that moment. So more than the idea of pointing out subject matter, we simply point out the idea of style of education. In other words, the main three things are to teach your children, or anyone, in a safe environment, a creative and imaginative environment, the consequences of any choices they may be making. So teaching them the consequence of choices is of paramount importance. But do it in a safe way, in a simulated way, before they make those choices out in what you call the real physical world. That will help train them to learn to make positive choices, ones that are in balance, ones that serve everyone. Number two, teach them that they are as powerful as they need to be to attract whatever they need without having to hurt themselves or anyone else in order to attract it. Number three, make sure that whatever lessons are truly important for them to learn to thrive in physical reality are adapted to their excitement rather than diminishing their excitement to teach them the lesson. Those three fundamental principles will allow individuals to grow into mature, balanced adults that can make positive, balanced choices that will serve all concerned and allow them to be who they truly are. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. That helps a lot.
Yes.
And the story I would like to share is of a contact experience I've had approximately 11 months ago. And I thought it might be a fun one to share for the topic we are exploring today.
All right.
So that day I went to sleep at 4 a.m. and very quickly I started to feel this classic energy over my body that I usually feel when I go into an astral projection. It came in and went in waves, and I felt like my energy levels were being tested or something. I was satisfied because I didn't have any resistance. I know I have to completely allow the flow of energy to pass, even though sometimes it seems like I'm right next to a buzzing airplane engine or
Congratulations.
and then I opened my eyes, and what happened was I saw three gray beings in my bedroom,
Yes.
almost looking like Sasani beings. And their energy was very direct. It almost felt like they were doing a routine job checking another human. And this was very different from the usual experiences I have when I meditate. And one of them came closer to me, a half a feet from where I was sleeping. And what surprised me was how, in fact, short they were, even though I already knew that they would be. And actually, their heads were so big in comparison with their bodies. And just because their energy felt really human, they looked like humans, but they weren't. So it was quite unusual.
Well, that's a projection, yes.
Yeah, and also I can't remember if they were wearing clothes or if it was just a very thin fabric.
A very thin fabric.
Yes, and one of those three came closer to me, and as they did, I went under my blanket. There was no fear, but I thought, I'm not afraid because if this was real, it was always real. I felt like I could go on and continue the experience, but I thought that was enough fun for today. So I closed my eyes and I started to feel my physical body very quickly. And when I opened them, there I was. It was the same bedroom, except I was back in the physical reality. And the first thing I did was I checked what the time was. It was 5 a.m. and then I went to record my experience in a journal. But all this time I wondered, is there anyone else on the other side of the room in astral reality? It was really cool because I felt how instantaneous, how small of a difference there was between that slightly higher vibrational plane and the physical one, even
Yes,
though I couldn't see them anymore.
yes, it's not that
Overall,
different.
yeah, and overall it was quite exciting to experience, just like you've mentioned those first
Yes.
contact experiences might happen.
All right, well, yes, you were dealing with the grays, and congratulations for having the awareness to remain conscious.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Yes, that's all from me, and aloha from Maui.
Aveo.
Hey, Bashar. My second question for you today is what are the origins of Sufism? I've been doing a lot of research into this as well, and it feels like the more I research, the less I know about it. So if you could help me out with anything to do with Sufism, I would really appreciate it. And thanks so much, Bashar.
What we can tell you at this particular moment is that even though it wasn't called Sufism at the time, the roots of it began in the culture and civilization you know as Sumeria, gravitated into the idea of India and other places throughout Asia and the Middle East. This is many thousands of years ago. It is a remnant of certain things that were also done in Atlantean times, but again, it wasn't at that point recognized as Sufism and certainly wasn't represented in that particular structure. But some of the elements have been transferred from culture to culture, and you can even take a few of them, not a lot of them, but a few of them as far back as the idea you call Lemuria, or Mu, in the South Pacific. Therefore, some of these principles have existed in humanity's legacy for a very long time, tens of thousands of years, and may have originated when human beings started recognizing the idea of their autonomy as being separate from the ancient Anunnaki who created Homo sapiens.
Hello, how are you?
Good day, perfect. And you?
I'm very well, although a little tired.
Oh, all right. How exciting.
Okay, thank you. So my question is, in the early days of the hybridization project, why wasn't DNA harvested from something like sperm banks rather than abducting people directly, or is it a case of fresh is best?
Well, it is in a sense a case of fresh is best, but the idea also is that there are energetic components you will not find in a sperm bank, besides which eggs must also be taken.
Right, I see. Also, another question. You've mentioned in a previous transmission that the Greys had to remove their emotions so they could do what needed to be done. And I'm just wondering if you could clarify a bit more specifically what it was that needed to be done.
The hybridization project is monumental and expansive, and they understood it would take a long time to achieve. Therefore, they knew from their experience as human beings that emotionality might get in the way of their efficiency because there was absolutely no time to waste whatsoever. They had to, in a sense, become very, very coordinated, and therefore they had to remove the emotional component in order for them to function as a unit, as a hive mind, in the most efficient way to get the highest degree of efficiency to achieve their goal, because it was absolutely necessary that they do so or they would die out. Therefore, to use your colloquial vernacular, they hired another species, the mantis beings, to oversee the entire operation, while they simply were capable then of letting go of all of those things that might be distracting to them and function in a very machine-like way to achieve the goal they were attempting to achieve, while overseen by those who could guide them. Does that answer your question?
That does answer my question, which brings me to another question. Do the mantis beings have emotions in the humans?
Absolutely.
Right, okay. And one last question, if I may. You've said before that you're in an alternate universe, where
Yes.
I was under the impression that you were in an alternate timeline in this universe, under the impression that there are separate universes, each with their own timelines.
From our perspective, a timeline is another universe, is a parallel reality. It's just another euphemism way of expressing the idea of an alternate universe or a parallel reality.
That makes sense. And do I have time for just one more question?
Well, you used up that time with a question.
Well, yeah, so I did. Okay, so sometimes I have, as many people do, a premonition about what is to come, and sometimes it comes true, and sometimes it doesn't. So
Yes.
what I'm wondering, how can people go about more consciously remembering their future?
Well, by remembering first and foremost that it's not fixed. There is no such thing as the future. It is composed of a number of probable paths. And remember, as we have said many times, there's no such thing as a prediction of the future. There is a sensing of the energy that exists at the moment the prediction is made, and therefore you get to decide whether you want to continue that particular energy direction or whether you prefer to change it. So the idea is to use it as a compass needle, a guiding mechanism to decide exactly whether or not to maintain the direction you're going in or to alter that path. And therefore, you're constantly choosing a number of different probable paths as your so-called future. The more you follow the formula, the more you raise your vibration, the more you will become consciously aware of the probable paths, and therefore can more consciously choose. But again, nothing remains absolutely fixed. It's in constant flux. It's a forever dynamically changing path. It's not static in any way, shape, or form. So to become aware at the level that you're asking about, in a sense, is to rigidize a process that actually serves you best by not being rigidized.
Okay, yeah, I think I understand that. All right, that was all of my questions. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome.
Bye-bye.
Good day.
Hello, I want to ask a question. I have a question to Bashar. I have an energetic surplus or plaque on my nose since January, and since then I haven't been able to do spiritual practices, and also it hurts sometimes, and I want to know what is it and how to get rid of it, because I've been to a lot of healers and psychics, but no one could give me a direct answer or a good answer. So I hope you can help me. Thank you very much and goodbye.
We may not be able to address this fully because we cannot address physical health issues. However, instead of seeking the energetic assistance of others, we would suggest that you allow yourself to do things that are more physical. Allow yourself to take more physical actions in the direction of your passion rather than just the idea of remaining interested in energetic pursuits. More physical activity may open up certain things within you that will allow for a flow to resume in a way that will alleviate this situation you're describing. But that's all we can say about it.
Hi, Bashar. I have a question about synchronicity and the symbolic meaning that is reflected in the way synchronicity is expressed. For example, 2 years ago, a pet sitter friend of mine went to meet a potential client at a very safe, quiet apartment complex and ended up taking the job and staying there for a month. During her initial visit to the complex, she noticed there was a large window near the lobby that was taped and boarded up, but she didn't think much about it. 2 years later, she returned to the same client's apartment for another pet sit. During her stay, some kind of projectile hit the third floor sliding glass door and the entire 8-foot span of glass was shattered. When the repairmen came to replace the glass, they told her they had not seen a shattered glass like hers, except one time 2 years earlier in the leasing office. Of course, they were referring to the boarded up window my pet sitter friend had seen 2 years earlier. How do you interpret the symbolism and meaning of that synchronicity? Thank you.
Well, again, there would need to be a deeper examination of personality structures as they relate to the actual synchronous incident, because it can be compounded by different points of view from different individuals. Nevertheless, in its simplistic form, the idea is that it represents the shattering of old ways and the adoption of new ways coming in. So it marks the line at which consciousness may shift out of an old expression that dissolves, breaks apart, or shatters, to allow there to be more acceptance and allowance of a new direction in life. Shattering old ideas, breaking free from old ways, and recognizing also, concurrently, as we have described, the splitting prism of parallel realities that are now euphemistically separated from one another by glass walls. So the shattering of those glass walls, in this case illustrated by the shattering of the glass door, can be a representation of either A, you are ready to deal with more of the parallel realities that have been separate from you on the positive side, or B, on the negative side, the idea that you are letting in more negativity from the other reality that heretofore was separate from you by the glass wall. So again, this depends upon the structure of the personality dealing with these synchronicities and the honest examination of which direction and which definition you choose to take the synchronous thing that has occurred with regard to the shattering of the glass.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Infinite good days to you, brother. So I want to ask you real quick, a quick background of what I'm doing with scalar technology. We've been utilizing just a person's photos and literally putting it underneath the scalar tech, and they feel the remote frequencies of healing. So I want to give some questions to that, if you can shed some light. And one of the most important ones is there any frequency or set of frequencies that get rid of the vaccine using the scalar tech the way I've been using them with a person's photo?
Repeat the question. Some of it blanked out.
Is there any frequency or set of frequencies that get rid of the vaccine using the scalar tech the way I've been utilizing it with a person's photo?
What do you mean get rid of the vaccine?
Well, detox from the vaccine.
The vaccine is not toxic.
Oof, okay. Or if someone has allergic reactions to it, how does one get rid of it?
That's different. That's different.
Okay.
But again, we cannot necessarily address many things having to do with your vaccines because your society has politicized this issue, and we cannot be that deeply involved in your politics.
I totally understand that. So the next question goes, what role does scalar technology have in advancement or hindrance of human consciousness?
Any technology is an expression of changes already happening in the collective consciousness. It can be expressed through individuals, it can be expressed through larger groups, it can be expressed by the entire civilization. But you don't have the ability to, in any way, shape, or form, create a technology that is not representative of some changes and understandings and viewpoints that already exist in the collective consciousness.
Right. So if scalar disrupts time and space, is there a doorway, and how do we open it?
It would require the use of scalar energies at certain frequencies that reinforce themselves. We are scanning to see if you actually even have the technology to do this. One moment. All right, well, the only thing we can provide at the moment is, do you have the technological ability to go through scalar frequencies from lower to higher?
Yes. In terms of sweeping, I think you're referring to sweeping frequencies.
Yes. Start with the Schumann resonance at 7.85 cycles per second. Can you do that?
Yes.
And go up to 10. Back and forth, over the time frame of 15 seconds and 15-second intervals for 15 minutes. This will begin to entrain receptive consciousnesses in a way that will allow their consciousness to open up and align with certain kinds of vortex and portal energies so they can more effectively and easily connect to different dimensional energies that may be of assistance in raising their frequencies to the point where it can eventually alleviate the idea of certain frequencies of toxins, certain frequencies of allergens in the body, but again, still, as always, must be something that their belief system will allow them to know can work. Nevertheless, that's the technological side of it. The rest is up to them as to whether they are attracted and gravitate toward utilizing that particular permission slip. But going back and forth over 15-second intervals from 7.85 to 10 for 15 minutes of an exposure to that individual can assist them in helping to align their frequencies and energies, if they are so willing, to higher frequency dimensional energies that can be of assistance in aligning their cellular structure. That's all we can give you on that.
Thank you so much. And I want to ask, what role does alchemy breathwork specifically play in the category of breathwork to the collective consciousness moving forward?
Anytime that you can oxygenate the system with those kinds of regimens allows for greater utilization of higher frequency energies in individuals, and therefore more individuals who are attracted to use that permission slip can help oxygenate and energize the systems of more and more individuals that will allow the collective to be more receptive to higher frequency information, experiences, and energies.
Thank you so much. And I want to quickly give gratitude to you, Bashar, because it's in 2012, December 31st is when, listening to one of your meditations, many people thought the world was going to end, and you were part of my awakening, and I'm helping so many people, and you're part of that. Thank you.
Our deep appreciation to you as well. Have fun.
All right. Peace.
Hey, Bashar, this is your friend Teresa from Long Beach. I'm over here looking at your interstellar Enneagram that you gave us back in 2014, and I have a few questions about it. When you say hyper sapien, does that mean who humanity is becoming and who we are evolving into?
It means both what humanity is becoming, what you're evolving into as the sixth hybrid race, becoming Homo galacticus, but it also is a reference to the fact that there already exist certain hyper sapiens that have evolved beyond, that are your genetic cousins that are assisting you from a certain level. So it's both of those things.
Also, is there any particular reason that the Pleiades are opposite Orion and Sirius is opposite the Gray Federation, with the seventh hybrid race in the center? Like, is the physical location of each of those in the Enneagram meaningful on its own?
Yes, because again, Orion represents a very ancient connection that requires you to live out the story of converting darkness to light that represents what you call the past. The Pleiades represents the future, in the sense that they will not only be one of the first extraterrestrial races to make open contact with your civilization, but again, similar to the concept of hyper sapiens, they kind of represent what you can become as an Earth society. The Sirius vibration is opposite the Gray Federation, because again, the Greys represent a kind of parallel reality beginning of the entire hybridization agenda, and Sirius represents beings that have interjected into your society some of the things that you needed to know to allow you to continue to evolve in concert with the things that the Greys are also creating within the hybridization agenda. So From one perspective, you could say the Greys created the template of the evolution of the hybridization agenda, and Sirius consciousness has interjected information at certain points in your history that helped humanity evolve along the template that the Greys created for the evolution of the Earth into the sixth hybrid race. And yes, they all, in the center, meet to imply that ultimately, when the sixth hybrid race exists, then all of the hybrid races will interact in a way that will allow for the creation of the seventh hybrid race, the Anuhet.
And lastly, the way that you've drawn it for us, is that meant to suggest the tesseract? The way that the actual diagram is physically drawn? Thank you, Bashar. Appreciate you.
Yes, part of the puzzle has been solved then, but not all. Think interdimensionally, think higher dimensionally. The tesseract being one representation of it, but that's not all it represents. So have fun with the Enneagram.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
We have lots of questions from our viewers about sleep.
All right.
So here's the first question. Are dreams another reality of another life?
They can be. Again, many things, as we have explained, happen when you dream. You can be in spirit tapping into parallel realities, being aware of the connections that you have in life energetically to other lives, counterpart selves, in other time frames, in other civilizations. And when you wake up, again, your physical mind will do the best it can to represent the experience in the symbols that it has at its disposal, to reconstruct a dream in a way that is at least partially representative of what you were doing. So yes, that can happen.
Okay, and so is the dream state an actual reality?
Yes.
And the question goes on to say, since all that is now, isn't the dream state our access to other points of view of the infinite? Is the cast of characters in our dreams real in their dimension or density?
They can be. Again, it depends on the reason for the creation of the dream. They can be symbolic projections of your own consciousness, or they can be representative of actual encounters with actual beings. Again, your physical mind doing its best to create the representation that most closely resembles the experience that you had in the spirit state, as you say, out of body, in the astral realm. So yes, it's a real state. The idea of the dream, as most people on your planet understand a dream, is simply the, shall we say, representation, symbolic representation of an experience that happened in a real dimension of non-physicality.
Okay. And who or what actually sets up the dreams for us? Is there a dream director of some sorts? Why do humans regard dreams as being more profound than daydreams or even day-to-day thoughts?
You are the director of your dreams. Now, you may have assistance from spirit guides or from other spirit beings who's in a position to help you assess what it is you need to look at, what it is you need to experience, but you make the decisions as to what you're going to experience, what you're going to look at, what you're going to explore and examine. So you are the director. The idea is that non-physicality is your natural state, and therefore, in a sense, more real than the idea of physical reality. Physical reality is another type of dream that you're having. So you know that physical reality is your projection, your illusion, your construction, and therefore, in non-physical reality, you know that that's more truly your real state, and that's why non-physicality seems more real than physical reality when you come from that perspective of understanding.
Um, Here's another question. I don't seem to dream in color like others. For example, when I dream and I see a tree, I know it's green, but I don't see it in the traditional sense. I just know the trees are green. What is the meaning of this? Is this because I'm aware of it being a different frequency, or do others seem to say they see colors in their dreams just like they do with their physical eyes, but I just don't seem to see that?
Well, again, this can be for a variety of reasons depending upon why it's being created that way. Again, we have to take this on a case-by-case basis. But sometimes when you're exploring the idea of the expansion of consciousness and you start to realize that physical reality isn't real, you may not need to see the colors because you're simply attempting to see the projection itself, the electromagnetic energy itself that you are using to create the reflective objects that you call physical reality. So you may not at this point need to see the colors. They may, in a sense, be a distraction for you in terms of what it is you feel you need to see about physical reality. It can simply give you the props, the neutral props, without infusing them with any kind of solidity which color would represent. So you may simply be examining the neutrality of physical reality as a projection of your consciousness, created out of the electromagnetic energy, the electromagnetheric energy, and therefore not necessarily need to see the colors at this moment, so you can focus, in a sense, on the objects themselves. People in your physical reality who are colorblind have advantages in certain ways by being able to see things in your reality that might confuse a person who can see color, because the color would be a distraction, whereas colorblind people can see the objects that might be otherwise hidden from people who can see color. So you might be using the same technique to make sure you see what you need to see without being distracted by the introduction of color.
What about the opposite, where there are some people who see colors enhanced in dreams, where the concentration of color is very intense, particularly in a lucid dream situation?
That's usually the result of actually seeing the spirit reality, in which many things that you take for granted in physical reality are actually much stronger. There are even colors in the spirit reality you don't even have or are not capable of even seeing in physical reality. In a sense, no matter how vivid physical reality may seem, it is a pale comparison to the things that exist in the higher spiritual realms in terms of the use of light or the perception of light and color.
Well, I know like the difference in coloration, saturation between the mainland and Hawaii is very intense difference.
Yes.
And then some people seeing Essassani have also said that the color saturation is just amazing and
Yes.
way beyond even what you would experience here in Hawaii.
Because again, it's closer to spirit vibrationally, and therefore the colors are much more powerful.
Very lovely.
Yes.
What does it mean when two people have the same dream at the same time? This person is saying something about shared dreams, where they have an experience where they meet someone in a dream and then they wake up, and then both individuals are able to sort of recount the details of the dream as if they were together in it.
Well, it's not as if. Most likely they were together in another reality, sharing a shared experience and remembering that when they wake up in the physical world. It's not that uncommon. The idea involves a telepathic connection, vibrational mirroring, so they can, in spirit, in the astral realm or wherever, share an experience that they will remember as a shared experience in much the same way that you choose to do things with your friends in physical reality and have similar memories of the same event. It's not that unusual.
What are other purposes for that? Because obviously when someone experiences that, it feels very mystical and like, oh my gosh, how could that happen?
Well, again, only because you make the spirit world something more mysterious than the physical reality. The idea, again, is it's no more uncommon than you deciding to get together with a friend to do something in the physical world. There are things that many people who are friends and members of soul families on the spirit level choose to do together, to explore things together, to share experiences together for a variety of reasons. So again, you're only making the spirit world seem mysterious. But many things happen in the spirit world that happen in physical reality, just in a slightly different way.
Okay. It's said that we're doing work while dreaming. What are we working on? And also, does the higher self like to communicate with us, or why does the higher self like to communicate with us with such weird dreams and symbols that often we don't know what they mean?
All right, well, again, as we said, you're doing many things while you are asleep. You are attending classes, you're exploring different realities, you may be planning elements of your life, you may be adjusting elements of your life, you may be conferring with spirit guides or what used to be called elders in the councils that exist in the spirit realm to aid and assist and guide spirits in what they may choose to experience. So you're doing many different kinds of things. And again, the idea is that you have quite a lot of freedom in the spirit reality to look at things from a higher perspective. But remember that, in a sense, you become the higher mind, more or less, when you are in spirit. And then when you choose to awaken in physical reality, you usually leave a percentage of yourself behind in spirit, the non-physical self, that becomes the higher mind. So the idea is that when you wake up, sometimes the messages or the experiences simply have no way of being literally translated into physical terms. And that's why dreams may seem very strange, because again, the physical mind is limited in the number of symbols and the kind of symbols it can use to represent what happened in another dimensional plane, and things don't always equate one-to-one from the spirit world to the physical world in terms of the experiences. But the physical mind does its best. Things may seem confusing because they don't seem to make sense, but on another level, it was perfectly sensible when you had the experience. You don't really have to worry about the idea of the discrepancy between the physical and non-physical reality. You will have absorbed what you needed to absorb of the experience in a way that will work for you. Whether your physical mind can make sense out of it or not isn't always that important.
So it's kind of like a lot of people feel like, oh, I have to remember my dreams and I have to interpret them, etc. In actuality, you're doing what you need to do when you're having the dream. And then sometimes it can be of value to translate them or understand them if it stays residually with you when you wake up in the morning.
Oh, yes.
But in general, it's pretty self-sufficient process for your consciousness.
Yes, the things that you need to remember, the things you need to reflect on, you will most likely remember. Now, if you are creating the idea of fear-based beliefs within your physical mind, they can sometimes act as obstructions to the clear interpretation of what you remember as an experience on the higher levels. And so that might be a reason to remember the strangeness of the dream, to work out what the strangeness is all about. It can, again, be for a variety of reasons. Simple misinterpretation of things happening in another dimension, or it can actually be obstruction of the meaning of things because of beliefs within you that force you to look at those beliefs, get you to really look at them so you can make sense out of what happened, so you can gain clarity about the symbols that are represented by the dream. But again, you have to take this on a case-by-case, person-by-person basis as to the reason for why it might be important for them to examine and interpret a dream, as opposed to when it might not be that important.
Yes, because there certainly are lots of books about symbols in dreams and what they mean, but actually it can be very your own symbols can be quite different from that and the meanings that show up in books.
They can, but there are some generalities that are true for most of you in the collective consensus consciousness. So sometimes that will work just fine, but yes, you may always make slight adjustments or even have completely different symbols to represent the same concept. So again, it comes down to really knowing yourself and investigating yourself clearly so that you understand your own language on that level as well.
That sounds like an exciting project, actually, just keeping track of your dream symbols and starting to eke out what they mean. Many people have dreams like of being chased, or trying to run and being in molasses, or not being able to make a phone call because
Yes.
those kinds of dreams.
Well, some of them are relatively obvious in the sense that you may feel mired down, you may feel that communication is not forthcoming. Many of those things are relatively obvious as a simple symbol. But again, it depends upon what the person is processing, what it is they're experiencing.
And recurring dreams, where some people have the same dream from childhood over and over again.
Yes.
Um,
Can be the result of something that is being attempted to be delivered in communication to them, or something that they have fixated on. Again, it can be different things. But if it happens over and over again, obviously it is something to pay attention to figure out whether it is something you fixated on, or whether there is a message attempting to get through from a higher level to you, or whether you are simply playing a game with yourself to remind yourself to focus on some particular thing when you stray too far. This technique can be used for a variety of reasons. Again, you have to know yourself to know in which way you might be using the idea of recurring dreams. It can also be an understanding of probabilities that may be more likely to occur than others, and reminding yourself that this has been set up to be inevitable. So again, it depends on how you're relating to the idea of a recurring dream and what purpose it serves in your life, and how you're actually using it to inform yourself of something that might be important.
So, for example, a person who can't remember the specifics of a dream, but it has a feeling to it.
Yes.
And in fact, it's not the first time they've had the dream. They just get that feeling again and again. What would be a good technique for deciphering the feeling?
All right, well, first and foremost, don't get up right away. When you wake from a dream, stay there for at least 5 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer, and see if more details of the dream come back to you to make itself more clear to you. That would be the first thing to do. If you still only wake up and still get up with only a feeling, then again you have to examine the belief system that would be creating that kind of a feeling and find out what that belief is.
Yes, because one person was asking, like, why do dreams fade away? Why do I have to go through this process of trying to remember the dream when I woke up in the morning, or wake up?
Yes, well, again, it's not about trying to remember, it's about allowing yourself to recall. But if you get up right away, then it can fade, because again, you have to get on about the business of your physical life. You again, no matter what, will have absorbed the information of the dream, and it might come out later in some circumstance or situation where you suddenly realize you have the information you need to handle whatever is going on, and that information may have been downloaded to you in a dream, and you simply didn't know that until the situation required you to recall that, or exhibit that ability that you gave yourself from the dream state. So it's not about trying to remember. If you don't remember, then just get on with your life. You still have the information in you somewhere. But again, if you stay in the bed and you stay calm and relaxed and ponder the idea of whatever it is you do remember, whether it's a feeling or an image or what have you of the dream, a lot of times more of the details will come back, and it might clarify itself in that moment. So don't be in a rush to get up. Just stay within that floating experience and let whatever needs to come back to you come back as much as it possibly can. If nothing else comes back after 5 or 10 minutes, then fine, get up and be about your day.
And what about the idea of programming yourself to remember your dreams when you wake up?
You can do that. You can do that. It's the same technique that many people use when they say, I'm going to get up at 9 o'clock. And their inner clock goes, bing, there you are, 9 o'clock. So many people who have the ability to program other things like that in their mind, in their brain, can also use it to program the idea of remembering their dreams. But again, more often than not, it will require that you stay in a state of repose to make it easier so that you don't get distracted by the physical reality around you by getting engaged with it too strongly right away.
Well, this week, I guess we covered this, the idea of a strategy to interpret symbols and events in dreams.
Yes.
Is there anything else we can add to that? Okay.
Not at the moment.
All right. And How can I start lucid dreaming? Is there an easy and efficient process, meditation or prayer to ask for lucid dreaming? And how can I teach my physical mind not to be afraid of lucid dreaming?
Well, first, of course, in asking the question that way, the person would have to understand what they are afraid about lucid dreaming. And once they allow themselves to clarify what the fear-based belief is, what they think will happen if they go into lucid dreaming, that certainly would be a big step toward being capable of doing it, is getting the fear-based belief out of the way. Now, there are many techniques that exist on your planet for such things, and different ones will work differently for different people. We will have to leave it up to synchronicity to attract the working methodology that would be best for you. You can find it in some books, you can find other people who teach such things. But again, the first and foremost issue is you have to find out why you would be afraid to lucidly dream.
Any ideas why people would be afraid of lucid dreaming?
Well, they might think they're going to lose connection with physical reality and never come back. They might think that they might actually choose to never come back because what they've heard about the idea of the spirit reality and waking up in the dream is so much more wonderful than physical reality. So they have to be honest within themselves about the belief systems they have about their connection and relationship to physical reality, so that they also know that it's a choice that can be made, but that they won't necessarily make it and leave everyone behind. So there may be a vast array of reasons why they are afraid to lucidly dream.
This person wants to know why it's hard to maintain a lucid dream. In the past, they found that when they get excited or nervous about it and have trouble guiding their focus, they wind up waking up within a minute or two and becoming lucid.
Yes, well, again, anything that is outside the vibration, the pure vibration of staying in that state, is going to bring you back to physical reality focus. And again, the idea is you do have a physical life to lead, you do have a physical life to live, and therefore you're not necessarily going to stay in the lucid dream state that long because you made an agreement and chose a theme where you need to focus in physical reality dream. And the more you become lucid in physical reality, again, the easier it will be to become lucid in the dream state as well. So the primary purpose of having a physical life is to know yourself, to be yourself, and to become more conscious and more aware and more lucid in the physical dream. Then that can leak into the dream on the other side, and vice versa. But remember that in the dream state, often many people are setting up in the physical world what it is they choose and need to experience, and therefore they're focused on that as being, at the moment at least, more important than becoming lucid in the way that you're talking about it in the dream state.
It seems like during lucidity, we have more abilities. Like some people can fly. Some people notice that there's almost an etheric glow to the environment that they're in.
Well, that's because they're in an etheric reality. And as we said, glows and lights and colors are different there.
Okay. So is lucid dreaming an important step in being able to experience physical reality as more of a dream, and also of connecting with other dimensions and things like that?
It can be, but it depends upon the theme that was chosen by the person. It's not necessarily more important.
So it's a permission slip that if you feel attracted to it, that would be something to delve into more closely.
Yes, it's not everyone's path. Yes, it's not everyone's path.
Just for our audience, there is a session on lucid dreaming that you did a number of years ago, and if you check with the chat, they can give you more information.
That can help if it works for some people, yes. But again, it depends on the path the person has chosen. It's in some ways more important to become more lucid in the physical dream.
So when we are more lucid in the physical dream, does it start to look more like a lucid dream?
Yes. And that's when you can also be more lucid in the dream state, because you have broken down the barriers that you have in your mind about what physical reality is, and the idea of the physical dream and the non-physical dream start to blend together. You lose a sense of difference and separation, at least to a degree that allows you to become lucid throughout the entire spectrum of your consciousness, both physical and non-physical. So becoming more lucid in physical reality and seeing physical reality as a dream and experiencing the malleability of space and time in physical terms can actually give you more experience in the lucid spectrum between physical and non-physical reality. It can cause less of a perspective of separation.
So compartmentalization is also an aspect of lucid dreaming, like the less you have to compartmentalize because it hasn't been dealt with, fearful, negative belief, things like that, the more challenging it would be to lucid dream or some version of that. And it's reflected in physical reality also, that
Yes.
you perceive more and you feel more like you're in a lucid dream when you have broken down the compartmentalization. Is that
In general, for most, yes. There is going to always be exceptions to any idea you may propose, because different people will do things in very different ways. But in general, yes, that's true.
And does time actually have a difference? For example, that individual was saying, oh, it happens so fast and then I'm out of it. Is it possible that they're actually in the lucid dream for a really long time and you just don't know it?
Yes, relatively speaking, time is very different in the higher states. It's not what you experience in physical reality.
And
what may seem to be 5 minutes in physical reality could actually be experienced as 5 years in the non-physical state.
And in lucid dreaming, is that a way that you can connect with hybrid children and other beings and other
I think you know
dimensions?
the answer to that is yes.
I guess so. Just confirming.
All right.
Okay, now prophetic dreams are also a big question. Some people have prophetic dreams that happen years ago, you know, and then they see it coming to fruition now.
Yes.
Other times, one person expressed a concern that the things that they were shown in this prophetic dream are actually connections they're making to other realities of other people that are having those experiences. And what would be the purpose of being shown something that's happening to somebody else like that?
Well, one purpose would be your reality contains the probability of what's happening in this other parallel reality, but you get to decide whether or not to keep the energy going in that direction or to change it and not necessarily let that play out in your physical parallel world. Wouldn't that be of benefit to many people, to examine what's going on in other parallel realities so that they can pick and choose what it is they prefer to experience in their own?
So in essence, most of us are going through the theme here of transmuting darkness into light.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So any dream or lucid dream or prophetic dream that you have can be brought more to earth, I guess, in the sense of recognizing it's about transmuting darkness into light. Is that?
It's a simple way of looking at it, but it can work that way. And again, always remember that it's not about a prediction of the future, it's about a sensing of the energy that exists right now, and therefore being given an indication of where that energy might lead and how it might manifest if it doesn't change. So again, you get to decide whether to keep the energy going in that direction or to change it.
So if they see a prophetic catastrophe in some way and they're feeling very fearful about what they've seen, what would be the way to process through something like that?
Well, first of all, not be fearful. Understand you're being shown a probable reality, not an inevitable reality, unless you're also sensing that there is so much momentum and energy behind it that it's unlikely to change. Nevertheless, it doesn't serve anyone for you to have a fear reaction of those things. The idea is that there still can be positive actions taken to either mitigate it to some degree, to let people know what the probabilities are, and maybe with the collective energy of more people knowing, then they can maybe steer it in a different direction, or again, to simply prepare yourself to deal with the idea that it's going to manifest, and therefore allow yourself to be of service and be of assistance to those who may go through it in a negative way, and therefore be of service to them to bring them out of it in a more positive ending or conclusion.
So it's almost like you can prepare for that particular disaster, I suppose. And then at the same time, that also teaches you how to maintain being at the center of the cyclone in a sense,
Yes.
the eye of the hurricane, so that you maintain your balance and your neutral posture while at the same time recognizing that this may be a reality that's going to manifest.
Yes, because many people may have believed that they required that idea, and if it's not something you necessarily need to experience directly, then you can be something that's a stable influencing to help them recover from such experiences in a helpful way, in a positive way.
So these questions have to do with waking up from a dream and coming back to the physical body. There's a transitory experience that we'd like you to explore, and also why it can sometimes take time to feel resynchronized with and grounded in the body and the personality.
Yes.
So I guess they're asking you to explore what is this transitionary process of going from sleep into wakefulness?
Well, again, different people will experience it in different ways, depending on their relationship to the idea of the transition from spirit to physical reality experience. Of course, many people who experience the idea of spirit or astral realms and out of body experiences get very used to it very quickly because that's your natural state. You remember who you are. You feel more expanded. You feel more loved. You feel more supported. So many people will have a little bit of resistance or a little bit of sluggishness, lowering their vibration again to reclaim the idea of the physical dream, to re-experience physical reality. And therefore it can require a little bit of time because there might be a little reluctance to give up the freedom and the expansion that you experienced in the non-physical realm. It's not unusual, but again, most people are willing to play out the theme that they chose, even if it is a little bit slow or sluggish to reconnect to that idea, even if there's a little bit of resistance or reluctance to do so. And that can be the reason for the slower transitions, whereas some people, depending on what they experience in the non-physical realm, might jump right back in, might snap right back in because they're so eager to continue with whatever it is they played out or planned out in the non-physical realm. It depends.
So it could also reflect the idea that if physical reality is very challenging right now, the idea of waking up into it may have resistance to that.
Yes, you experience a lot of this or hear a lot of this with what you call near-death experiences, where the person is out of the body, so to speak, for an extended period of time and gets used to the idea of being an expanded spirit and remembers who they are and how it feels and so on and so forth. And then you find that sometimes when they are resuscitated, brought back into the physical realm, a lot of them can actually experience anger for the moment at being so restricted again. But again, they usually bring with them the knowledge of an experience that will benefit them in life, and they will usually apply that and get over the anger relatively quickly.
I have heard of people who get quite depressed after that and go through a lengthy process of being depressed.
Yes, but again, the idea is that they may not simply be made to understand that they were given a gift that they can bring back and apply to the physical world, and they may simply be dwelling on the idea that, oh, I'm back here again, and now I have to go through this and do that. So their focus is important in terms of allowing themselves to know that more often than not, when you visit, again, the spirit realm, which is your natural home, your natural state, if you do return to the physical realm, there is a purpose to that. And if you focus on the idea that you've been given some information that can actually be of great benefit and service to your world, then it won't necessarily be experienced as depression.
What is, mechanically speaking, the difference between sleep, coma, and anesthesia for consciousness?
Well, sleep is a reconnection to spirit and a recharging, in a sense, of the physical realm. Remember, the physical reality isn't real, and the way you know that is it has to be maintained. It decays. That which is real doesn't decay, it doesn't degenerate, it doesn't decompose. So sleep is for the purpose of recharging, in a sense, the batteries of maintaining the concept of physical reality as an experience. Now, a coma will usually be for the purpose of just regenerating the physical form itself. It will allow you a long hibernation that will allow for certain repairs to occur in the physical form. There may be a connection in spirit in that sense, but not necessarily bringing back with it the idea of any information that would alter the path of your life once the physical body is regenerated. Anesthesia, on the other hand, is something that puts you into a suspension that in most cases will prevent any kind of cognition from occurring, so that it's more like you just sort of skipped over a track. So that one moment you were conscious and then you were not, and then the next moment of consciousness leaves a gap, in a sense, in your life that you barely feel. And again, it doesn't mean that you weren't out doing things, but it doesn't bring back with it anything that's pertinent to add to your life per se, at least not consciously.
So, but some level, you do remember what's happening to you. Like, for example, if you go under anesthesia to have a tooth removed or something like that, you may not have a memory of the event. However, some level of you does, and the universe records, right?
Of course. And you will know all of that when you're back in spirit and going through a life review. You'll see every single second. But many things you may have forgotten or never even knew occurred. You will experience every single second of it, at least as an observation, if nothing else.
I see.
And you will know what you were doing during that time.
So back to that idea of process of going into a dream state and coming out. I know that our scientists have documented the different stages of going to sleep.
Yes.
And particularly that stage where you seem not to be able to move. It can happen either when you're going in or coming out of a dream, right?
Yes. You're fixing yourself in a certain vibrational state. Now, this can happen for a variety of reasons. Of course, as we said, a lot of it happens sometimes when you're shifting into a different dimension because you're no longer really controlling your movements as a physical being, and therefore your body remains rigid. So again, this can serve a variety of purposes. It can act as a buffer for a transition from one state to another. It can simply be representative of the fact that you want to make sure that you stay and remain in a certain state for a variety of reasons while you're out doing something else. Again, it can be for a number of reasons.
And this person was saying that they made the decision to become vegan.
Yes.
And then once they did that, they started having amazing dreams, like tons and tons of dreams.
Yes.
Is this common that diet will affect your ability to remember your dreams or what you experience?
The choice to change the diet is a reflection of a change in energy already within your consciousness. It's just that now, because you have made that shift to a higher frequency within yourself, you simply no longer have the urge to eat things that you would consider to be of a lower, denser vibration. So it's not that the vegan diet affects the dreams, it's that you've already gone to a higher level that promotes those kinds of experiences, and the vegan diet is a reflection of the change you've made within your frequency.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
All
yes.
remember, these are all reflections, and they seem to be driving it, but no, they're actually
They're reflections of a change that already exists. Now, that doesn't mean that the foods are not lighter in frequency. Of course they are. But again, that's a reflection of the higher frequency that you've already made within yourself.
Can you explain how we shift through the frames of physical reality while we are dreaming? Do we continue to shift through the frames when we are unconscious, or are there special parameters for our unconscious selves?
You are always shifting whether you know it or not. That's just the fundamental nature of the structure of existence, because there is only one now moment. And anything, in any way, at any time that you experience as a difference between one moment and another moment, if you can perceive the idea of a difference, you've shifted. So it doesn't matter whether you're physical or non-physical. It's just that the time frames operate differently. Some are faster, some are slower, in terms of how you perceive the creation of time by the shifting of your consciousness. That's all relative. But there's always a shift. Always a shift. The only place that has no shift is the unbroken homogeneous one that has no experience or awareness of itself. But from all that is, all the way down, everything is shifting. That's the nature of its existence, because there's only one moment in which to experience anything. Therefore, you have to experience the same moment from a different perspective to notice any kind of a difference of any nature whatsoever. So shifting is automatic. Not to make a vehicle pun.
As at a spiritual school, I was awoken one night with a ball of light and the sound of a bird and breath and a piano in my room. How are visions or experiences like this different from dreaming?
Well, they are, in a sense, to use a word, intrusions from the dream reality into your physical awareness. So in other words, there's a kind of a bleed through or a leak through, which means you have sort of diminished the separational barriers between physical and non-physical reality, and are experiencing bleed throughs from other realities and other experiences that you may be connected to, but usually shut out of your physical life.
And is there a meaning to this vision, or is that possible for you to give any insight on that?
Well, again, it can be representative of connections that you have that inform you in this life. So let's say the idea of hearing a piano may be connecting to a very musical life, and the idea that the vibrations, the frequencies of music may be of some assistance to you. It may be a soothing energy for you in this life, or it may be something that inspires you to be more creative. It depends on the person.
How can we dream of you? How can we communicate with you in dream form? And is there something that would help us achieve this more easily?
All right, well, again, more often than not, you will most likely connect to the entire frequency of my people, my world, my reality, rather than a specific individual other than your own counterpart or future self, which is more likely. However, if you remember any conversations that we have had, or remember any time that we have communicated with any of you, remember the vibrational feeling, the frequency that you felt, even the timbre of the channel's voice can put you in a state where you are more easily connecting not only to my collective vibration, but to my vibration to some degree as well. Now, again, it's not always important to connect specifically to me, but you can certainly use the specificity of your interactions with me, specifically as an individual, to connect to whatever you need to within our collective vibration, including, again, if you have a counterpart there. So don't insist that it has to be me, but you can use the memory of these experiences and the tonal vibrations of the frequencies that we give off in order to connect to whatever you need to that is a representation of our reality. Remember, no insistence.
This question is, you've said that you do not dream and you don't sleep. So do you ever get bored with the experience of consciousness itself?
First of all, I said we do not sleep. We do not dream in the way that you do because we are always dreaming. So no, there's no boredom. We're constantly walking through multidimensional experiences of different kinds of dreams, including physical reality. So we didn't mean that we don't dream at all. We simply don't dream the way you do, in the sense of disconnecting from the physical world, so to speak, or shutting out your focus of the physical world, because we're always awake and we're always dreaming.
So do you miss sleeping and being unconscious?
No. First of all, the change in my society happened even before I was born, so I've never slept. So there's nothing to miss.
And but you have other connections that tell you what sleep is like. For example, when Daryl is sleeping, is it easier for you to connect with him and communicate with him in dream state, or is it easier just direct communication?
It depends on the type of connection. It depends on what's going on in the channel's life. In general, yes, it can be easier because the channel's physical consciousness is set aside to some degree. But that doesn't mean we haven't communicated and can't communicate, and doesn't mean the channel is not consciously aware of our communication even when he's awake, especially after 38 years of experience with us. He's gotten used to it. So sometimes the communication can be there, and it's like he drops into a kind of a daydream. So he understands how that feels, and he understands what that experience is, and he recognizes when it happens. But again, yes, in general, it can be a little bit easier when he is asleep.
And like that time, as was shown in the First Contact documentary, of when he experienced, I guess, in a dream state,
yes,
where you were coming off the ship and then you were eye to eye.
Yes, that happened in a slightly shifted, altered physical reality or quasi-physical reality, which is usually where our communications take place when he's asleep.
And it was designed to show him how your frequency is in relation to ours as physical beings, and the amount of clarity I believe you would need to have in order to maintain your own persona in your presence.
Correct.
Do you all use any kind of permission slips for getting into other states of consciousness?
If that is necessary, it will synchronistically arrive and is a very fluid and smooth experience with no real need for a request or a decision to be made consciously about what those permission slips might be. Because again, everything is interacting, interpenetrating as a multidimensional dream in our waking state. So if a permission slip is needed, it is simply there. Now, you could say that our spacecraft are a type of permission slip because they are a crystallized physical symbology of our higher minds, and we communicate telepathically with the craft. And you could say, therefore, the craft is a permission slip because ultimately we don't really need the craft, but we also maintain the craft not only for a permission slip for our purposes, but for your purposes and other civilizations who would rather and prefer to make it make more sense to have open contact by seeing an extraterrestrial arrive in a spaceship rather than just popping into your living room unannounced.
Although for our initial contacts that many people may have one-on-one, wouldn't popping in be more likely to happen than somebody showing up on a ship? Or
not necessarily. Again, it depends on the person, it depends on the theme, it depends on where they're at vibrationally in their path.
So it could be either one in terms of the contact experience.
Absolutely.
And it could even just be auditory, right?
Absolutely. And it can even be just like what we're experiencing right now. This is a form of contact.
It's so much fun.
Yes, it is.
If you all don't sleep, why do you have day and night cycles on the planet? Is that for other beings or?
Well, that's just simply the nature of the planet. And remember, a long time ago, we used to sleep. That doesn't really change anything about the natural cycle of the planet.
What use does dream interpretation serve for a first contact specialist? When people dream of you channeling through a body like Daryl or myself, do the human channelers also gain the experience of the dream?
Yes. And it can be a way to practice the idea of bringing higher frequency energies and making connections telepathically to different beings. Remember, you do a lot of things in your dream state as practice for what you will ultimately experience in physical reality.
So if a person is having a dream of Daryl channeling you, and they are remembering that, that is also something that Daryl can tap into and experience or get benefit from?
Well, it depends on if he needs to do so. It depends on if it's relevant for him. The channel has been told many times that he appears in people's dreams and that they have conversations with him. So does he need to know that? Maybe sometimes he does, and maybe sometimes he doesn't. It depends on what he needs and what's relevant for him to know. That doesn't mean he's not active and interacting with other people in the astral realm from time to time that they may remember as a dream. And it brings the energy of us into play with them, because the vibration in the astral realm would be very similar to our vibration as you experience it in this channeling. But again, does the channel always need to know that? No.
And since this reality isn't real and we make this shift daily to go into spirit and into the dream state,
Yes.
how do we better consciously exit this reality to control what occurs to us in this reality from above? Or would you define our existence here on Earth as a bubble reality?
We can define it as a bubble reality. It's an interesting and convenient way to talk about your particular universe. But that's, again, just an arbitrary label. If it works for you, use it. Now, the idea, again, of leaving the physical reality permanently, which I believe is what was being asked, is, again, you have your own timing. You will leave when you're ready to leave. You will leave when you're done with the theme that you chose to explore, unless you decide to explore a different theme, which is now possible in your physical transformational reality. But most of you will have set up some circumstance where you will simply leave when it is time to leave, when you're done with what you're doing, with what you're exploring, like anything. And again, if you're always curious about when that time might be, as we have suggested before, you can always lie down on the floor, you can close your eyes, you can say, I'm ready to leave. I'm done with what I'm doing in physical reality as an experience. And then if you can count to 10 and then open your eyes, you're not ready to leave. You're not done, because it should be that easy to leave. If you are done, you would leave.
Wait, does that mean you can program having a peaceful transition when your time comes?
Why not?
How
And
would
again,
you program that?
Well, again, clarify everything in your life so that there is no fear-based beliefs remaining, so that you don't have to believe that there's any suffering needed or anything like that. And sometimes you will know that many people, just before, a split second before something happens that might actually kill them, will already be out of the body.
What about those people who are loved and have really good lives and everything, and then at the very end, they have an extremely difficult transition into spirit, painful experiences.
Again, there's a reason for everything. And it may have more to do with those that they're leaving behind in physical reality than it has to do with them. So again, as always, case by case, person by person, there's no one general, one size fits all to those particular kinds of experiences.
And I'm just thinking of the hybrid children. What's a good way to know if you're having a hybrid child dream? What are some symbols that typically show up in the dream?
Well, this is a large subject and it can take many forms. Perhaps if you have a dream literally of a hybrid, that would be obvious. But if you also see animals in nature or nature spirits in your dreams that seem particularly mischievous, it doesn't mean it is a hybrid child, but it can be one taking that form to have some fun and play around with you. But there are many other ways in which you can perceive that idea, and too many to go into at this time.
There is one where people see like a jar or something with a being inside of a jar. Is that?
It can be a representation of the hybridization chambers that they are gestating in once removed from the womb. And therefore it could be a calling card that hybrids will use. But again, it depends upon the hybrid child.
So if a child was in that state or stage of development as a hybrid, and you're there as in the dream state, you can communicate with that being at some stage similar to human fetus that is inside the body?
Telepathically, yes. Just as In what you call post-hypnotic regressions, you can take a person back into the womb and they're communicating telepathically with many different things.
Do these fetuses have the capability of communication right away, or do they have to reach a certain stage of development?
The communication can happen right away, but that simply may be coming from the spirit itself rather than through the fetus. If the fetus is not developed to the point where telepathic communication is possible through the brain, then the communication telepathically would probably be coming directly from the spirit that hasn't really fully connected with the body yet.
I see. And do all hybrid children speak English, or how do they speak to each other? Do they have other languages?
Well,
when
they
first come
speak
here?
telepathically, but they are learning some different languages that exist on your planet in order to blend in ultimately. But telepathically is what they use mostly among themselves. They do practice different languages and have a lot of fun with that, especially when they get something wrong. They laugh a lot.
Will they have names when they come here, or do we give them names?
It can be either. It's up to them to choose. Most of them will choose names from nature. But again, some of them may allow the adults that they meet to name them. It depends. Again, these are personal things. It depends on what they are attracted to do.
And the age that many of the children will be when we finally meet them here.
There will be exceptions, but most likely the concentrated range will be somewhere between 7 and 13.
And as a 7-year-old, though, they would be much higher functioning than a 7-year-old in our particular species.
Well, they will be much higher functioning than a 7-year-old used to be on your planet, but many 7-year-olds now being born on your planet are extremely high functioning.
Yes, we have noticed that. It's amazing what some of the kids can do now.
Yes.
I've noticed that some people are unaware of the different frequencies the 5 hybrid races normally vibrate at, and they become confused when they're hearing that a general interaction with Sasani beings is not appropriate right now, but only interactions with grays is possible. And can you summarize what the typical vibrational levels are of each of the 5 hybrid races and compare that to present day humans?
Yes. Well, we're not going to go into numbers, but we'll give you a general curve. The idea, again, is that the grays themselves, being hybrids, are still operating on a relatively low frequency. The frequencies got higher with the next version of the hybrids, the Mizani, and higher still with our civilization, the Sasani. But then it was recognized that the vibrations had to go down somewhat, or at least be altered in a certain way that became more compatible with humanity at a certain level, when humanity reaches that level, in order for the blending to take place that would allow Earth to evolve into the 6th hybrid race. So it kind of went up, and then it kind of went down, but not exactly down as you understand down. It simply was altered in a way, flavored in a way, that would allow the 4th and 5th hybrid races, the Shayayel and the Yayayel, and of course the Shalanaya, to still exhibit high frequencies, but the high frequencies that would be compatible vibrationally with evolved humans when humans are ready to have open contact with them. So you kind of see a peak and a decline, but not a decline in the normal sense, an alteration.
The decline doesn't mean that they start thinking negative thoughts, basically.
Correct. It's more of an alteration that is done in order to make them more vibrationally compatible with interacting with humans during open contact.
And you mentioned that Sasani children are born through the parents going into a meditative state and then forming an energy bubble, and then the being is created.
In the overlapping bubbles, yes.
Yes. When will humans be capable of this kind of procreation?
About 1,000 years.
Okay.
Give or take.
Oh, I know. And I meant to ask you, when you were talking about the vibrational states of the hybrids, since possibly the Pleiadians would be the first that we would have contact with.
Possibly.
What would their vibrational range be?
Well, again, it's high, but it also exhibits the same kind of alteration that we just described. so that they make themselves more vibrationally compatible. In other words, their vibration normally is very high, but they don't show you all of their frequency. So the idea is they make themselves more compatible by sort of closing doors on some of their frequency when they interact with humans. In much the same way that coming through the channel this way only represents maybe 5, 10, at the most 15% of my total vibration. So we make an alteration that makes us more vibrationally compatible, but the idea of being face to face with us would not allow that filtering to happen in quite the same way. But the Pleiadians are willing to do that because they are more closely related to you as your kind of genetic cousins.
Is there anything you could tell us about the Andromedans?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up in a minute here. Here's one question. You had mentioned that unconditional love is the frequency of existence itself.
Yes.
And you've said creation is only slightly more positive than negative. And does the negative polarity exist only in an incarnate experience?
No, it exists on every level. Again, only in the one where there is homogeneousness and no experience, no awareness, no brokenness, so to speak, is there none of the idea of the experience of positive or negative or neutrality. But in all that is, instantly, it creates the idea of the polarities and the neutrality becoming the trinity of positive, negative, and neutral. It exists on every level. Now, how you experience it is very different. And you don't have to experience negative things on certain higher levels, but you become more aware of the possibility and the probability of all the different ways that negativity could be chosen. You just don't choose it. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist as an option. Look at the yin-yang symbol. Always remember that. There is the light side and the dark side, but in each, there is a drop of the other because the other is always accessible. No matter how far you go into the darkness, there's always a drop of light. No matter how far you are into the light, there's always a drop of darkness that is accessible to you. It doesn't mean you have to experience it, but it's always a choice.
Well, on that note, it's really good to know that I guess what you're saying also is if there is any dimension of time in your experience, then there's polarity, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that it's what is the level of consciousness, the highest level of consciousness that experiences polarity?
All that is.
Ah, I see. And how does that conform to the ideas of angels and those levels of consciousness?
Well, angels, as we have said, are kind of like the first reflection of all that is. And that's why you have the story of the angels of light and the angels of darkness. They are the first story, the first reflection beyond all that is that expresses the concept of polarity, or contains it at least. And therefore you have, shall we say, ensconced that idea of polarity even in the angels, because you talk about light angels and dark angels.
So if a person thinks that they are experiencing themselves coming from a reality where there is no negativity, it's not that the negative does not exist, it's that it's not perceived or it's not related.
It's not expressed.
It's not expressed.
Yes. It is validated for what it is, but not chosen or expressed as an experience.
So essentially an angel or any consciousness level below that would not experience negativity, but has recognition of negativity.
Yes, unless they wish to experience negativity. It always can be chosen for a variety of reasons. And again, it depends on the level, it depends on the frequency, as to whether it is more likely than not that it might be available as a choice, such as in your own world.
Whereas in your world, does anyone ever choose a negative experience?
No, thank you. Not now. There used to be those experiences when we were first evolving, after we were created, but no, not now. There's no reason.
And so illness doesn't exist in your world.
Not anymore.
But does illness always reflect the idea of negativity, or
No. Again, please remember, you can use positive things in a negative way. You can use negative mechanisms in a positive way, just as you're doing right now. You're using a negative mechanism of limitation to limit your greater consciousness in order to have a physical experience. That's a positive way to use a negative mechanism.
So, and maybe one of the greatest lessons from all of this is that there's always a silver lining, and if you can find it, it will shift you to a positive state.
Yes, and there's always a dark cloud too.
And best to leave that one alone. Huh?
Maybe, maybe not, because dark clouds produce wonderful rain.
That's true.
Thank you.
So it's all good.
If you look at it that way, yes. So.
Oh, and there was a request for a Halloween story.
A Halloween story. All right. We are going to pull this story from what you would recognize as the channel's future consciousness. In other words, it's a story that's in his consciousness that he hasn't realized yet and will write in the future. Of course, he will realize it now because we'll imprint it on him and impress it on him so he could write it sooner than he otherwise would have done. This is not an interference because these things are available to us through the channel's consciousness. And since it has to do with a story that he will have written, then we can pull it now because it is allowed to do so. This is called The Demon with the Sweet Tooth. Jack and Jill, 10-year-old twins, are made up like skeletons for Halloween. They have done this on their own because Jack is very excited about special effects makeup and has done a wonderful job making he and his twin sister look just like Day of the Dead skeletons. And they go around in their neighborhood collecting candy, and they arrive at the 13th house that evening, and a woman opens the door who is dressed like a clown and looks at them and says, "Oh, what wonderful costumes. Here is some candy for you." They very quickly say thank you and turn around and walk away because to them, clowns are even scarier than skeletons. And they continue on their way and arrive at the end of the block. And they look down the block and it is very dark. There are very few streetlights. And Jill says, "Well, maybe we should go the other way." And Jack says, "Well, our big sister, Rachel, has said that some of the best candy is on this block. So we shouldn't be afraid of that." And Jill says, "But Rachel should have been with us." "Yes," says Jack, "but now she is in high school and says that chaperoning two young children is less exciting to her than going to her parties, her Halloween parties. Ooh, big deal, big grown-up parties. So we are now on our own for the moment. So let us go down this block and collect some more candy." And so Jill reluctantly agrees, and they move down the block. They don't get more than maybe about 100 feet when all of a sudden, a huge, scary, demonic clown shows up in front of them and howls at them on the wind. And they freeze, not able to speak or run. And the demonic clown with glowing green eyes reaches out and snatches away their bags of candy and devours it in an instant. And then belches and smells like a sewer and disappears. And it takes about a minute or two for Jack and Jill to be able to speak. And when Jack speaks, he says, "Wow." And Jill says, "Wow, that's all you have to say after that horribly frightening experience? Wow?" And Jack says, "Well, that was some of the best special effects I've ever seen." And Jill says, "You mean you believe that wasn't real?" He says, "How could it be, silly? Demons aren't real. I suppose you still believe in Santa Claus too, don't you?" And Jill says, "Well, if you're sure, well, how did our candy disappear?" "Well, it's a magic trick," says Jack. "You remember seeing that magician on TV make that elephant disappear? Well, candy should be easy peasy by comparison." "Well, I wonder who did that," said Jill. "They must have some amazing technology to do something like this." "Oh, yes," said Jack, "probably a hologram connected with some magician in disguise that we didn't see. Who knows? But that was a wonderfully frightening experience. Let's go down this block and see what else we can find." So they agree to continue now with empty bags, having to need to fill them up again. And again they go from house to house and get more candy. And by the time they have finished with the 26th house, again, 2 times 13, the demon clown shows up again, and with a horrible howl on the wind, snatches their candy away and devours it again, and belches once more and leaves, vanishes into the shadows. And Jack and Jill said, all right, well, enough of this. We're not going to have any candy left if this continues. I wonder who's behind it and how they were able to do this again at the other end of the block. We thought maybe it would just be near their own house, but clearly they're capable of doing something like this no matter where we are. So let's test that, because I'm going to make sure that this doesn't happen again, because we need to keep our candy. So they pick up their empty bags and they go down the other side of the block, and again, after they reach the 39th house, 3 times 13, sure enough, the demonic clown manifests again and towers over them with its glowing green eyes and reaches out, but Jack and Jill react quickly and hide their bags of candy behind their backs. And Jack says, no, you shall not have our candy again. And Jill says, yes, be gone, O demon clown. And they have a laugh about this because, again, they're pretty sure that this is just a special effect. But as they confront the demon, surprisingly, shockingly, the demon clown begins to cry. And as it continues to cry, it starts to shrink. And it continues to cry and continues to shrink. And it shrinks down and changes into the image, into the ghost of a 7-year-old little boy. And this 7-year-old little boy ghost continues to weep in front of them, floating in the air before their eyes. And suddenly Jack and Jill recognize the little boy ghost. Josh Graves, Jack says. But you died last year. Yes, said the ghost, whimpering. I was sick for a very long time. And I could never go trick-or-treating, and finally I died, never having experienced Halloween. And so I became angry and jealous of all the children that go around trick-or-treating and want to snatch their candy away, because if I can't have it, you can't have it. And Jack and Jill felt compassion for the little boy who had died. And Jill said, I'll tell you what, why don't you come trick-or-treating with us now? Do you mean it? Said Josh. Oh yes, it would be great fun, because you can actually scare the people after they give us candy, because you are a real ghost. And that would be so much fun. Well, the little ghost boy stopped his sniffling and said, yes, I would love to do that. And so the 3 of them traipsed off and went trick-or-treating and received a lot of candy and gave a lot of scares. And at the end of it, Jack and Jill said, you know, I have an idea. Why don't you come trick-or-treating with us every year? Oh, I would love that, said Josh Graves. And so finally he was befriended by someone living who could allow him to experience trick-or-treating and Halloween in the way it was meant to be experienced on Earth. And so in the meantime, he returned to spirit and felt the freedom that wasn't his until Jack and Jill had befriended him. But every year he would return, and the 3 of them would go trick-or-treating together. The end.
Oh my goodness, that's wonderful.
Yes, it is. And so maybe many of you this Halloween will befriend a spirit and go trick-or-treating together, knowing that they are there with you, whether you can see them or not, having as much fun as you're having, so that you can know you can always go trick-or-treating with the spirits on the other side. So now, allow yourselves to relax and experience the meditation that we have for you this day.
Thank you so much, Bashar. We love you so very much.
Our unconditional love to you all, Nania. Again, prepare now for your meditation. And now, we can allow for the experience of a meditation that deals with what happens when you sleep if you allow yourselves now in this particular meditation to become relaxed, to let go of the cares of the day, allow your body to relax, but at the same time, realize that this is something you can do more effectively when you are actually going to sleep. So when you are lying in your bed, even as you may participate now, but when you are lying in your bed, going to sleep, when it is time to rest, allow yourself to simply know that there are many things that are happening on the upper levels, the astral level, the spirit level, the extraterrestrial experiences, as your body lets go of the day, as you relax, as your mind turns from outward to inward, as your mind begins to process whatever it may need to process from the experiences of the day. Just allow yourself to go with it. Let yourself know that your body will take care of itself. It will heal itself. It will rejuvenate itself. It will replenish itself and re-energize itself, recharging its batteries for the next projection of the physical reality dream that is required for you to experience. But know that as you drift off, you will also allow your higher mind to be more open to allowing, with the physical mind, experiences of lucid realities, lucid dreamings, to be more consciously aware of what is going on these other levels, to be open to those ideas, to experience the vibration of the template level reality, the blueprint reality, to experience the vibration of the astral realities on all levels, to experience the vibration and frequencies of the higher spirit realm, to experience the vibration and frequencies of extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional connection, to experience the vibration and frequencies of any activities you may undertake with respect to the idea of assisting others in crossing over, in practicing to become a spirit guide, in listening to seminars and lectures that are being taught by higher level spiritual consciousnesses that you may be participating in, to become more aware of the vibrational paths of probabilities that you can undertake that are beyond the plane of Earth's experiences, to allow yourself to be more open to all of these things, and to recall them in the symbols of the Earth that are necessary to represent these experiences in a more conscious way when you wake up the next day. To allow yourself to be open to the shifting of cycles on your planet that allow for the crossing over into different dimensional experiences, for the veils and barriers that may have existed energetically between different realities to get thinner, to dissolve, to become more transparent to you. To allow yourself to go with the flow and cycles as they naturally occur, whether at 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., or to allow yourself to also rest and re-energize from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. in your particular time zones. There are always exceptions, but allow yourself to go with the natural cycles of your biology, the natural cycles of your astral form, the natural cycles of your higher mind, the natural cycles of your soul level, the natural cycles of higher spiritual experiences, the natural cycles of the agreements you have made to participate in the evolution of the Earth becoming the sixth hybrid race. All of these have their own natural cycles that synchronicity is the organizing principle can bring into play in perfect harmony, in perfect resonance, in perfect timing. Allow yourself to know that all of this happens automatically and effortlessly as you drift off to sleep. Allow yourself to simply be open to all of this, allowing it to happen as it needs to, for what it needs to bring you, in perfect timing, in perfect synchronization, in perfect orchestration. Allow yourself to drift off to sleep knowing all of this will happen automatically, effortlessly, beautifully, harmoniously, artistically, creatively, imaginatively, in ways that will serve not only you but all concerned through all the connections you may have been creating throughout your life, now and forevermore, in whatever ways they need to dynamically change to serve you in the moment of who you are and open you up to new doorways, new portals, new expressions, new receiving, new acceptance of yourself. Allow yourself to open up as you drift off to sleep and know that all the things that are necessary for you will come to you. All the things you need to be fulfilled are here and now with you. They will make themselves manifest and apparent exactly in perfect timing, for your life is a perfect orchestration. And as you drift off to sleep, allow yourself to equate the idea of surrender, not to the idea of losing control, but surrendering to the control that's automatically already built in to the synchronicity that guides your life. Allow yourself to go with your flow, knowing that your flow knows exactly where you need to go. Allow yourself to drift and dream upon the currents of creation. For you are supported, you are nurtured, you are loved unconditionally. Practice this as you go to sleep, each night, with each nap during the day, any time that you need re-energizing, any time you need to charge your batteries. And remember, physical reality is your projection, but it is an illusion of consciousness that you can use to your benefit in a variety of ways, but it is not permanent in its experience. It is temporary in its experience, even though, as all things, it is, as a principle, as an idea, as a concept, and as an experience capable of being tapped into, always available to you, no matter when, no matter where, no matter how, no matter who you choose to be. Always available to you to learn whatever it is you wish to learn, whatever it is you wish to experience. All pertinent and relevant information accessible here and now for you in any form that works for you that you so desire as a permission slip. All here, all now. Allow yourself to drift and dream, knowing everything is in perfect timing, in its perfect place, in perfect relation to everything else, all interconnected, all acting as one, even as it acts as all individuals within existence. Infinity in the one as infinity. Go to sleep knowing you are supported, nurtured, and unconditionally loved, and in service to all, of which you are a part. We will reinforce this idea with another meditation, another exercise, another technique at some time in the near future. But for now, allow yourself to know that what happens when you sleep can only increase not only the sweet dreams that you may recall when you awake, but also allow your physical dream to become sweeter still. Our unconditional love to you all. Sweet dreams to you, and welcome home. Aveo, Aveo, Aveo. We thank you for your service. We thank you for your participation. And we bid you